How about right now? There we go. It's a Thursday morning. We're here. Little mic issue there. It's all right. We're up and running here. We welcome you to Light the Tower. You're on. Apologize, Colonel Flowers, if you had to hold that plank position longer there. We were here. Just a little button issue there with the microphones there. A little different mic settings. And it happens from show to show. But we're glad to have you with us. Good morning and welcome to the program. My name is Craig Wade. Glad to have you with us. The Jeff Howe vacation is underway. So he's out the rest of this week and then all of next week. And then I'll be on the annual sabbatical afterwards. But we're here. Our producer, Cameron Parker, as always, is here at the switch and ready to roll. How you doing this morning, Cam?
Doing great, Craig. I got my flat tire changing time under 10 minutes. So
I should throw it in inconceivable. I should throw it in. And by the way, and I'm going to let Cam tell a story here in a second, inconceivable is coming up in about 15 minutes. We're doing it early this hour, and there's a very specific reason for that, which I'll explain in a moment. But you just had a tire issue, what, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, about a month ago. Blew out my driver's side rear tire on 183.
Yeah.
Get a new tire, discount tire. Pay for warranty, folks, if you don't already, because I saved,
That's good.
good penny. And then
Now,
yesterday,
it wasn't the same tire, was it?
it was the same tire.
You're kidding.
Yeah, same tire on 183 once again.
Was it near the area where you had the last
A
one?
little bit farther north. So I had to reach the toll part of the road. Unfortunately, I heard a big pop,
Uh-huh.
gunshot going off.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I was just about to exit for my exit off 1431. Pulled
Yeah.
in, changed it real quick with a discount tire, and found a big nail that had gotten into my tire and exploded out. So all that construction on 183, I'm
Yep.
sure there's a lot of debris on the highway. So that's great. But I saw a few other people also with flat tires on 183 yesterday too. So there's a lot
It's a
of
mess right
construction.
now, isn't
Yeah, it's not good. So be careful on the roadways, folks.
And I'm no longer a resident of Cedar Park as of late last June is when I moved to Georgetown. So I don't travel as much regular 183 north, like I did for 23 years, and almost 24 years. And so I went up that way just a little bit yesterday, and I was like, ew. It's the construction type. But, I mean, it's happening everywhere. I mean, we know this going 35 through Round Rock
Yep.
and into Georgetown. And by the way, at nighttime, if you're driving up there and to Williams Drive, I mean, they got all that construction going on with the bridge there, so you're going to be, you're going to be slowed down. And then this morning, the usual wrecks. I like what Don Miller, our traffic guy, said. He said, we've had more wrecks during this hour than we had during the entire morning drive.
Wow.
And included where I was coming up 183. It's actually 183 north. That's why, because odd numbered highways, both U.S. highways and interstate highways, if it's an odd number, it means it's north-south. If it's an even number, it's east-west. But what you'll often hear our friend Don Miller say is he'll go 183 north or westbound, if you will. And what he means by that is because the road kind of curves out kind of in an almost east-west thing before it cuts really north again. So he does a good job with that in terms of the directional part, how it kind of flattens out into a west to easterly plane before it cuts north again about the time you get Mopac. Well, I was on that portion right there, burn it, and there was a big wreck and the entire left lane shut down. So be careful if you're driving through all of that. As I mentioned, we're going to get to, since we just did a little bit of inconceivable stuff there with regard to traffic. Actually, I think we've all been around Austin long enough to know that almost any traffic situation is not inconceivable, and in fact is quite conceivable. But our regular inconceivable segment is going to come up in about 15 minutes. The reason for that is we're gonna have our Longhorn Notebook right around the same time, maybe just a little past the bottom of the hour. The Longhorn Notebook, clearly and obviously, is going to be centered in on the 2024 SEC schedule. And Cam Parker, what is the most talked about element for the Texas Longhorn football schedule for 2024, not only for Texas Longhorn fans, but the way it was presented on SEC Network on that schedule reveal yesterday, the most talked about element on that program was what?
it's got to be the renewal of a long-time rivalry. And although it's a road game, it has to be the road game against Vanderbilt, right, Craig?
Oh, it had to be, right? Can't wait to find out when that is.
Oh,
right?
A&M. Oh, sorry, must have slipped my mind.
The home game against Mississippi State, right? Yeah. No, obviously it's Texas A&M, and we'll certainly dive into talking about that Longhorn schedule. But joining us just past the bottom of the hour to give us don't gasp, but to give us the Texas A&M side of things, my counterpart and a really all-around great guy, Andrew Monaco, the play-by-play voice of the Aggies of Texas A&M, will join us just past the bottom of the hour, and we'll get his thoughts on the perspective of what's like. You know, it's not unusual for us to have people who cover Texas A&M on the program to present that. In fact, it was a year ago today, or at least a year ago this weekend on the Thursday, going into the College World Series in Omaha, when I had Olin Buchanan, who writes for Texags. I've known OB for decades, since he was working with the Tyler Morning Telegraph and was covering high school football, and I was doing my high school thing in Dallas, and that's where and Cedric Golden, all of us became friends back in the day back then. And, of course, Olin has been residing in the Brazos Valley and covering Texas A&M, and we had him on. It was today, which would be the workout and press conference day in Omaha, which it is today, Thursday, the day before the College World Series begins. And I had Olin on talking about the Aggies. And so it's not unusual for us to have those to present the perspective of, as they like to say, the Association of Former Students, those over there in the Brazos Valley. So Andrew Monaco will be on to talk not only about the Aggie side and perspective of the Texas A&M renewal, the restart again of the rivalry, but also their schedule, their SEC schedule. So we'll get his thoughts on that. So,
and they got to be pretty happy about their schedule, Craig, because they get Texas at home, they avoid Alabama in Georgia. Their toughest game is at Florida, and who knows what Florida will be like in 2 years.
Yeah, and I think so.
And LSU home as well.
Yeah. Somebody says the station director is an Aggie. Oh, you mean the program director? You mean Chad? Okay, he's not the station director. He's the program director. He gets used to. But Chad is always described as a realistic Aggie,
Level-headed Aggie.
Yeah, level-headed Aggie. He is.
We also, isn't Jeff Howe technically an Aggie, right?
Don't get him started on that, because we pointed out the fact that he attended briefly what was then called Central Texas College, at junior college up there. It is now part of the Texas A&M system. Texas A&M, CTC, I guess, something like that. So anyway, he did. Yeah, but so didn't you attend a branch campus? So anyway, our Spec Text line always is open at 512-337-3776, 512-337-3776. I will be with you until 11 o'clock. At that point, I am in a meeting with the Texas High School Coaches Association for their annual convention that'll I'll be moderating, and the panel discussion with all of the Division I FBS football coaches in the state of Texas. That's coming up next month. So we have a big meeting, an annual meeting where we do that, where everything gets mapped out. Any other events, the Hall of Honor banquet, the opening of the convention, where Mac Brown and I are going to do a hangout Q&A thing, and then another event called the Head Coaching Academy. So I'll be here the first hour of the program. Cam will be joined by the level-headed Aggie.
Yeah.
So you'll get some perspective from him. I know he's very excited about this, because in talking to Chad yesterday, he was extremely excited that all of the word had been kind of leaking out that it was a done deal that Texas and Texas A&M were going to play. I think we all kind of knew it was coming, at least for this first year. And when I tweeted out right after it came down that it was official that Texas would play both Oklahoma and A&M in 2024, when that happened, There's all kinds of, reactions or likes or retweets or whatever. And then someone had said, is this how it's going to be every year? The Texas will get only 3 road games in the SEC? No, it's not. Because remember, first and foremost, the most important thing to remember, I think, about this schedule release, or at least the opponent release, it's not a full schedule because we don't have the dates of these games. But I think one of the most important thing to remember about all this, it's that it's for 1 year, 2024. Then we're going to see where it is going forward once new television contracts are drawn up and things of that nature. So the question is, will there be a 9-game SEC schedule or an 8-game SEC schedule? And it's an 8-game next year. And this was the other thing that we brought up yesterday on this program. I mentioned that we would probably learn who the 4th non-conference opponent would be for Texas. I said it would be pretty close to the announcement of the other, and it turned out to be in conjunction with it, and that would not be an FCS school, and it's not. It's Louisiana Monroe. UL Monroe will be the 4th non-conference opponent for Texas. Next year, it'll be on September 21st. So those things, none of that surprised me from what I'd been able to find out and learn from folks connected with the program. And maybe it surprised some folks that the three games, Texas against Oklahoma, Arkansas, and A&M, none of those games would be played in Austin. Now, the Oklahoma game we know is a given. It's going to be in Dallas. And let me add something else here. There'd been some conversation I heard on some other programs here on the station, including the one that precedes ours, but not just Bucky and Aaron, but the other programs I'd heard speculation about, what would happen if they didn't play it in the Cotton Bowl? Would it be in Jerry World? Oh, that'd be awful. Anna said, let me assure you, because I heard it repeatedly, not once, not twice, repeatedly, from both athletic directors, from Joe Castiglione, the AD at Oklahoma, and in addition to Joe Castiglione, also from Chris Del Conte, University of Texas Vice President and Director of Athletics, that this game in Dallas will always be in the Cotton Bowl or it won't be in the Metroplex. It would revert to home and home. They're not going to play this game as a regular season game in Arlington.
Good.
I don't think that will ever happen. This goes back to ADs prior to that. Lost Dodds always said that. When Mike Perrin was the interim AD, I think even when Steve Patterson in his free time, they all said the draw, the allure, the magic of that game is playing as a part of the State Fair of Texas on the fairgrounds, where on a given second Saturday in October, there are about between 250,000 and 300,000 people on the fairgrounds that day. There's a lot of folks who come down from Oklahoma and even some who come up from Austin who go up there and they don't have a ticket and they might not wind up with a ticket, but they're around the buzz and the atmosphere of it. That doesn't happen in Arlington with it. The Big 12 championship game is a completely different animal. It's run as a neutral site game. It's run by the league, so it's not going to have that type of vibe to it. It's a different vibe. It's a conference championship on the line, and depending on how good your team is that year, maybe accompanying it is a ticket to the playoff. If you win it, you have a good shot at it, especially with the expansion of the playoff coming in the near future. But I don't think you ever have to worry about that. Not probably in our lifetimes. That if that game should ever leave the Cotton Bowl, and by the way, it almost did for a time in the early 2000s. It almost did, because the Cotton Bowl was in such dire need of repair and renovation. And when Laura Miller was the mayor of Dallas, she was against it. She was not on board with it. It almost left. And the way it was told to me, and the way it was openly said by the Lost Odds even, and Joe Castiglione, that if those improvements had not happened, they were going to pull the game out of Dallas, it would have gone to home and home. It was not going to be in Arlington. And so I think it's pretty safe to say you don't ever have to worry about that. That's the game. The Texas OU game is always going to be played. If it's not at home and home, it's always going to be played at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. All right, so maybe it surprised some folks that the other two games, A&M and Arkansas, are both road games, but the trade-off for that is having those 4 full conference home games of Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. And then the one other road game that Texas has in league play is, as we mentioned, Vanderbilt in Nashville. So, by and large, I think, there will I think Longhorn fans are pretty excited about it, especially what they have with the teams that will be coming here, in addition to the renewal of these other games and rivalries.
Being able to host Georgia, I think, is going to be an absolute awesome atmosphere. And I think that's what Texas fans have been looking for, right?
Sure. And then you add to that a non-conference road trip to Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
So that's on there as well. On the Specs text line at 337-3776, somebody saying it's 2023, must be inclusive. All right, it's from A&M. So, and here's another thing. Let me just say this, too, before we get to the break. The business of this deal about, I've heard Bucky and Aaron talk about this, where they talk about the all gas, no excuse is what they said. I'm not sure, and I haven't talked to them about it, so I'll talk to them about it. Maybe that was just a moniker that they put on it like that, but I'm not exactly sure what they're basing on, because there's no excuses offered over on campus. If you were to walk into Moncrief, there's a big sign there at the locker room that says no excuses. Nobody's offering any excuses. And yesterday, for those I heard, folks texting in or calling in about, hey, better worry about 2023, they're not thinking about 2024. All that other noise you're hearing and the excitement that we're talking about 2024, that's media and fans.
Mm-hmm.
The team's bearing in on 2023. Before the schedule release, a few minutes before, Sark tweeted out 2023. And so did players retweeting it.
That's a reminder to the guys, yeah. Don't get caught up in all the...
Right. And they were retweeting it as well. Yeah. They're dialing in on 2023. There's one more year to go in the Big 12. And I do agree with what Bucky is saying when he had Monty Williams on. The line for them is to try to make sure you're in that final Big 12 football championship game, to exit out the way you want. And then the same thing with basketball and baseball and women's basketball and softball and track and field and golf and tennis and swimming and diving and every other sport, rowing, every other sport, to try to exit as a champion. So the focus is on 2023, but the down road focus from the Southeastern Conference, from television and media fans, is on the schedule release. And I completely understand it. It makes sense because of the excitement of what's to come. All right, we need a break. When we come back, we will do Inconceivable. That is coming up. We're going to visit with Andrew Monaco, play-by-play voice of the Aggies at Texas A&M. We'll do that as well. All that and more when we continue with Light the Tower. On the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital, on Horn app and at hornfm.com. You've heard me tell you about Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. We all know that they do great roofs, but they're also a full-service solar company. So here we are heading into the hottest time of the year. That's when the higher power bills start arriving. So why not be prepared and save money this summer with a new Timberline solar shingle roof? Maybe you already have a solar system. You have solar panels or solar shingles, some sort of solar system, but you don't have a backup battery. Well, then you would be wasting money, because with a backup battery, you're able to use all of the power that you make instead of giving it back to the power company. The batteries are now covered by the Inflation Reduction Act, so you get that tax credit. We can all certainly use that. John Hardy and his staff solar experts. They can repair and service your existing solar system. Those other roofers you hear about are just selling you a solar roof. Divided Sky Roofing and Solar can repair and service your existing solar system. They're a true resource, and they can help extend the life of your system. They're all master electricians. The crew also NABCET certified. That's the solar version of master plumber. So trust your roofing and solar needs to the experts. Our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. You can call them at 512-995-ROOF. It's the EC license number 37397, or check it out on the web at dividedskyaustin.com. Might be inconceivable to some folks to think about this ultimately, that Texas and Texas A&M are going to play football again. Again, we're going to visit with Andrew Monaco, Aggies play-by-play voice, coming up past the bottom of the hour. That's why we wanted to bring in Conceivable a little bit earlier. And somebody else in the Specs text line asked the question, will there be a 2024 SEC championship game? If so, how will the participants be decided? Can't fully cart fully before horse here. No, it's no harm in asking the question, and it's already been announced that it's going to be done like the Big 12, in that the top two teams will. There's no divisions, so it's going to be 60. Reminds me kind of like a British English Premier League soccer table, you know? Just have all listed in one grid.
There's no Alabama-Georgia guarantee with this, how it's going to be in 2024.
No, but there is an Alabama-Georgia guaranteed game in 2024. Yeah. How about that?
Which will mean a lot.
Which is really interesting because in any other year, if that came out that Alabama was going to play Georgia, and it will be unbelievable hype around it as well when they play in 2024. There certainly will be. But again, to go back to what we were talking about, the way it was presented by SEC Network, they were doing it almost like college football playoff style when they showed Texas with that neutral site game with Oklahoma, and they did the slow pan out to show, yes, it's going to be A&M and it's at home, and yes, it's da-da-da-da-da. So they went on and did it like that. So the way it was presented, obviously, the Texas A&M renewal was going to be the big thing. And then, oh, by the way, Alabama's playing Georgia. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty big deal. But it's the top two teams that will be headed for the SEC championship starting in 2024. They got one more year of this division alignment in 2023. Okay. We got a couple of stories to get to here. First of all, Kim and I both have said that we're McDonald's. We have a weakness for it.
Have you had the Grimace meal yet?
I've not, okay. But I noticed CB, our man CB, had the Grimace birthday shake, that purple shake with a wild berry flavor, and said it was pretty good.
Okay.
And the reviews on it have been pretty good. So
I thought about it passing by, did not stop, but I may have to on my cheat day.
When was the last time you would say, not necessarily for you, but since you're not married and don't have children, this probably doesn't apply to you. But when was the last time you could remember either purchasing or having purchased for you a Happy Meal?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be
decades.
When was what's the age limit? 10, 12? Whenever
Something
that
like
was.
Yeah,
whenever
okay.
That was.
All right.
I know some adults go and will buy a Happy Meal. I don't do that.
Linda likes the Happy Meal because
The
she just
toy?
likes no, the size of the cheeseburger and the small
Yeah,
fries or whatever.
condensed down.
So we'll do that. Well, and I always like deny the toy if I order it. Like no thanks. Save the toy for another kid. Well, it's probably a good thing, and maybe in Michigan, maybe folks will think twice about ordering this specific toy because you have a child specific toy. The ones under 3, I believe, or the larger. 2 moms recently said they kind of got more than they bargained for when they visited their local McDonald's for a couple of Happy Meals. Instead of finding the brightly colored Happy Meal toy, Detroit area mom Kayla Almashi was the first to say that her daughter opened up the Happy Meal and said, "Here you go, box cutters."
Oh, my goodness.
In the Happy Meal. And so then, right after that, a couple weeks later, another Michigan mom, Dawn Parrott, said she also found a box cutter in her child's Happy Meal.
The same location?
Does not say that. Let's see. It doesn't say it was the same one. So, in fact, it says local McDonald's locations. So it was another one, yellow box cutter, packed away in the order. So, I mean, when you look at it, it kind of almost looks like a toy of some sort there.
Yeah, I wonder, because what was the toy they were handing out? I wonder if it was the same color. Maybe they just saw yellow. Yeah. It was a bright color.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah. Lately, I think it's had to do with the remake of Little Mermaid, I think. Something like that. Might have been that. So the box cutters were discovered by adults quickly enough to avoid causing any harm to either child. Both moms wrote they cannot help but think about what might have happened if a younger child had received the tools and attempted to open or play with them. So be careful if you're buying your Happy Meal out there and you order the toy on that if you do that.
Looking at the toys for the McDonald's release, they look nothing alike. So
yeah, okay. All right. A couple of sports-related things. Did you see the end of the Astros game last night?
I heard about it, did not watch.
Okay. Lynn and I were out at dinner last night, and we saw it. She actually saw it first, and then I saw it on the replay. Astros won in a walk-off. And the way the walk-off happened, bases were loaded, and there was a ground ball to short. And on the ground ball, it happened where the Astros had rallied from down 3 runs on top of the inning. The Astros loaded the bases against relief pitcher Hunter Harvey. So with 1 out, Harvey appeared to get the play he needed when Jake Myers hit a ground ball to shortstop C.J. Abrams, who threw out Kyle Tucker at home. So that's out number 2. So then Nationals catcher Gabriel Ruiz went for the double play with third to first base. The ball then went off Jake Myers' helmet and went down the line, and the Astros get the win. So Dave Martinez really upset, thought he was running out of the baseline, all that kind of stuff. But he didn't just do your normal thing where the game's over. So he's argued, and it's non-reviewable play. So what does he do? He gets a printout of it on the computer.
Yes.
Gets a printout and then holds up the printout in the press conference and says, "There it is right there. Take a good look at that. Is that on the line? I don't think so. I'm over this play. They need to fix the rule. This is what the umpires see, that he's running down the line. Tired of it. Fix it. We lost the game, and he had nothing to say about it because he can't make the right call. Brutal." There'll be a fine coming there off that. And then, of course, everybody was recalling in the World Series, remember the Astros played with the one with Trey Turner down the line there in 2019. So that immediately recalled efforts of that. Also, this Oakland Athletics thing, they did the reverse boycott deal on Monday night, and they had 27,000 fans show up for that. And they're trying to convince A's ownership to sell the team. That was the big hashtag. Sell the team. Stay in Oakland. Sell the team. They were doing that. Well, now they've gotten some, you might say, celebrity help involved with this. First of all,
Brad Pitt?
No. Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day.
Okay.
Was there. They all excited. Billy Joe was at the game. He wrote on his Instagram stories, Oakland forever, Vegas never, hashtag sell a team. Tom Hanks, big Oakland A's guy. In fact, when he was a teenager, sold concessions at the Coliseum.
How about that?
Yeah. He was at a media event, was asked whether he would consider buying the A's from the A's owner, John Fisher. And he said his answer was, the A's are valued at about $1.18 billion. Hank's net worth is said to be around $400 million. He said, I don't have the money. I don't have the kind of money on that. But then he said, we lost the Raiders. The Warriors moved to San Francisco, and now they're going to take the A's out of Oakland. Damn them all to hell, was his comment. And then he was told, well, the A's are only averaging about 2,000 fans per game. He says, the greatest fans in all of baseball. So he said he didn't do all that well in his career money-wise to pull up that kind of money. So there it is. And he did have a summer job at the Coliseum as a hot dog vendor when he was 14 on that. So, all right, we need a break. When we come back, we're going to visit with Andrew Monaco, the play-by-play voice of the Aggies at Texas A&M. We'll have our Longhorn Notebook coming your way. I'm with you for the first hour of the program. Yes, the level-headed Aggie, Chad Hastings, will be in to give his side of it also in the 11 o'clock hour with Cameron. That's coming up. But we'll have our Longhorn Notebook next when we continue with Life the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Hey, one thing I know, no matter which team you're watching on television, whether it's the Athletics or Rangers or Astros, whatever it might be, you're always going to have a better chance of enjoying that sports watching experience if you have the home entertainment setup that you can get from our friend Tom McCann Audiovisual Consultations. They have the equipment, the knowledge, the expertise to work with your budget, the work within the vision of what you want. You don't have to worry about the mounting of the equipment and all that stuff that goes into that, let alone having to deal with shopping in the big box stores for overpriced items as well, because Tom and his staff are not raising prices. Tom is holding the line on that to make it affordable for you. Check it out on the web, and you do that at avconsultations.com. Then give Tom a call, 512-255-8678. Let Tom McCann Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams. Yes, aren't we all family once more? This is Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Way with you. Our producer Cameron Parker with that specific selection. Toward that end, and with everything we've been talking about the SEC opponent schedule release for 2024, it is time now for our Longhorn Notebook. The Longhorn Notebook, of course, deals in specific with, obviously, University of Texas athletics, Longhorn athletics, things like that. Well, it certainly is on the front burner today in these parts about the 2024 SEC schedule release, the conference opponent release, I should say, because we don't have the scheduled dates yet. However, it's on the front burner all around the Southeastern Conference. And the number one story, certainly as we mentioned, the way it was presented on that on SEC Network, has to be the renewal of Texas and Texas A&M playing. And they will resume it in 2024, and it will pick up where it left off in College Station. And toward that end, so pleased to have a good friend join us, play-by-play voice of the Aggies at Texas A&M. Andrew Monaco joins us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. How are you this morning, Andrew?
I am doing well, my friend. It is so good to talk to you, and I'm excited that I'm going to get to see you a lot more starting next season, which makes me very happy.
I know. We got a chance to see each other when I was doing the Westwood One broadcast of that home game you had against LSU in the drizzle and the rain and all that stuff a few years ago. But we're looking forward to this. That I wanted to have you on to have you tell folks, because everybody lives in their own little bubbled-in world of collegiate fandom, and certainly Longhorn fans are very excited about this, and I would imagine that by and large, Aggie fans are excited about the schedule release or the opponent schedule release, and then getting ready for the renewal of the rivalry. What's been the vibe over there once it became official yesterday evening that Texas and Texas A&M were going to play football once again?
I'm guessing that if they wanted to start a ticket pull for that game in 2024, there would be Aggies lined up for that one. I think it's a lot of excitement, Craig. I really do. And to add back to being conference rivals, I think is exciting. And it's when you add in that next year is also the year that we start a series with Notre Dame. It's LSU comes in as well. You look at that home schedule, and it's dynamite. And to me, it's an atmosphere for all those Saturday nights become something absolutely electric. But the rivalry comes back in football. I know that we have played in other sports. The first thing I thought, Craig, honestly, was, isn't ABC going to fight for this game and put this on in some prime time? I mean, it falls right in the lap. And with the SEC trying to me, they try to uphold all the rivalries. So LSU will keep playing Alabama and Tennessee in the third Saturday in October. They want to keep Georgia and Auburn. This rivalry falls right in their lap. And I think it's just absolutely not just made for a great atmosphere. I think it's absolutely made for television, and to me, it's an absolute ABC game. Now, where, when, and we know where, when will it be played? That's what we're going to find out, and I would love to see the tradition come back of it being on Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, you just made a great point. First of all, that with several, if not the majority, certainly several of the SEC schools, there are multiple big traditional rivalries. With Auburn, it's Alabama and Georgia. With Georgia, it's Auburn and Florida. With Alabama, it's Auburn and Tennessee. With Texas A&M, it would be Texas and LSU. With Texas, it would be Texas A&M and Oklahoma. So there are multiple important rivalries. For Tennessee, it would be Alabama and Vanderbilt. There's multiple important rivalries being renewed as a result of this. I mean, even Texas, Arkansas, and of course A&M will have that game against Arkansas. Now, help me out on this. The game with Arkansas this year is going to be at Jerry World, and then going future, will it stay in Arlington, or is there a future plan to have that go home and home?
24 is the last year in Arlington, so 2 more years, and then it goes back onto the campuses. But that deal is through 24, which I think a lot of people are looking as well at the schedule to see where that game was going to be. But that one is through 2024, so 2 more years playing that one in Arlington. But you're right about even those secondary rivalries, Craig. And I don't mean to label it that way because they're important. That's another thing that the SEC just adds with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma is even more rivalries and some traditions and some history between these schools. And by getting away from the East and the West, I think you're able to keep some of those rivalries. Florida and LSU has been one that was kind of created as they were playing, but you make a great point. There's a lot of them that get to be protected, and I think that's important for the fans.
Yeah, I agree. And, I've compared it to, because I've said this about the Big 12 as well, when they did away with the divisional thing, I said it's like an English Premier League soccer table. You just line them all up there in the table, and then your top 2 winners are going to wind up playing for the championship. Let me ask you about that non-conference schedule again, because I'm looking at it now for 2024, and there's some similarities between what Texas is doing and what Texas A&M is doing. You've got a big marquee non-conference matchup for Texas. They have to go to Ann Arbor next year, and of course, the Aggies have Notre Dame starting up on that, and then they're playing Bowling Green and McNeese and New Mexico State. Was that already done before the SEC, or did it do like Texas when they announced the 4th non-conference opponent yesterday evening being UL Monroe?
No, we've had those. I think it's basically through 28. So the marquee is Notre Dame, 24 and 25. Arizona State, Louisville is how it lines up the next 2 years. So we finish up with Miami this year, going to South Florida. But those non-conference have been lined up for that time, which was why we were all wondering, was it going to be an 8-game conference schedule or a 9-game conference schedule? And if it does down the line become 9 conference games in the SEC, it's going to be interesting to see if it involves buyouts or what happens with those contracts. I can't see the marquee games going away, but I'm wondering about those other ones. But that non-conference for Texas A&M has been set for a while now.
Yeah, visiting with Andrew Monaco, Texas A&M play-by-play voice here on Light the Tower. Okay, I want to get your thoughts on these SEC opponents for next year, and then I'm gonna pull it back forward and get your thoughts on going into 2023. But first of all, with regard to 2024, other than Texas and LSU, those traditional rivalry games, if you were to pull them out, which game on that schedule excites you the most and which one do you think probably excites Aggie fans the most other than the Texas and LSU games that's on the 2024 schedule for A&M?
It's interesting what school is not on there, which has been part of A&M since they've come in, is Alabama is not on there. Brian Kelly got his wish. They asked BK, you want to play Alabama every year? Yeah. Well, he got his wish. So for Texas A&M, that's not there. Auburn has always been a decent rivalry, and to go to Florida, I think is one. Florida came in during the COVID year. Dan Mullen was still there, and that was kind of a run for the Aggies. That was one of those wins that kind of turned that Orange Bowl season around. I think when you look at those, and those are 2 road games, so I want to say the Aggies opened up SEC play. Their first road game was at Florida in Johnny's season. So I think those 2 always stand out because you're playing Auburn every single season. They've been an SEC West opponent. And then the biggest complaint, Craig, has been, we've never been to Kentucky. That was the schedule was going to change in the SEC. At some point, it was going to, I think, in 24 anyway. So student athletes could play all the schools. We're going to Tennessee. Well, we went to Tennessee for COVID, but we're going to Tennessee in the original schedule. This would have been the first time we're going there since coming in to the conference. What are we looking at? We're looking at 12 years later before a player gets to go and play the Volunteers up there in Knoxville. So I think that's been a nice change. So there's a couple of teams that you haven't seen for a while or haven't played in their stadium. I think that's what's exciting. They've only gone to Georgia once. You know what I mean? And Georgia's not come to Kyle Field. So I'm liking that that's being rectified. But by playing Auburn every year, like we'll play them in September this year, by playing them every year, that kind of gets some of that rivalry going. Continuing that series with South Carolina, wasn't sure they'd become the permanent opponent. Wasn't sure that was going to be it. But I think it's any time you have some of those rivals from the West, you be able to play. That's the one that kind of gets you jazzed up. And as you know, Craig, fans like to pick one trip or two trips to go to kind of become that marquee matchup. That's the one where Aggies have been able to travel and go see.
Absolutely. Okay, let me get your thoughts on 2023 because you open against New Mexico on September 2nd. You mentioned the return game with Miami. That's the marquee game on there. You have ULM, who will play Texas in 2024. That was the fourth non-conference announced yesterday. And then you open SEC play with Auburn at Kyle Field, followed by the Arkansas game, and then you mentioned playing Alabama, which has been, of course, being in the West, a traditional thing, and then the road trip to Knoxville as well. So there's some games on there in addition to the end of the season, the Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm with you. I would love to see the Texas A&M game return to the Thanksgiving weekend. Don't know, neither of us know right now whether that's going to be the case or not. I know there's going to have to be more conversations about that. But how about your thoughts on this particular schedule, and for that matter, the preparation for Jimbo Fisher and his staff in getting this team ready for 2023?
Craig, I'm excited that the right players came back for this team. I like that Ainias Smith and Damani Richardson. They're the two that I'll bring up first. Ainias coming back to be one of the receivers to lead a better receiving corps than last year. Damani Richardson on the back end, just what he has between the ears. I'll use the Greg Popovich line, corporate knowledge that he has. But McKinley Jackson saying he's going to come back on that defensive line, to have Layden Robinson on the offensive line come back. I think they're the right guys and the right leadership, because I think there was a bit of a void last year for Texas A&M with the leadership, and you're bringing experience back. And I think that's important. That was another thing that was missing last year. And I'm also excited to see the freshmen who become sophomores. And Craig, I say that because you know this. When you've got a young player, you usually want to play him only so many snaps. Well, because of the injuries, you're playing these young guys more snaps than they probably should. But they get that feeling of, okay, now I belong on this field. And that confidence grows. And when they say, hey, I like being, I'll bring up Bryce Anderson, who's maybe the nickel for this team for replacing Antonio Johnson. I belong, and he likes being a starter, and he's not going to give that up. He's going to compete every time. That's what excites me, that inexperience then becomes experience and understands what it takes to play. Again, you know this, still from high school football to not just college football, to play a Big 12 or to play in the SEC. It's a big jump. And when you say I belong, I think that confidence kicks in. And then what do you do to keep that spot? Are you always going to compete? I like that this is now an experienced team, and I like that there's some leadership coming back for 2023.
Hey, before I let you go, we had the Seamhead Girl, one of our texters, asked, and she asked, have you heard anything about baseball scheduling in the SEC? I would say no, and you'll have the advantage on me if you've heard anything on that, because I know they work 1 year at a time. I mean, it's not even revealed yet what the spring 2024 baseball schedule will look like for both of them, so maybe we're jumping ahead of ourselves. But what I wanted to bring up with is folks have asked me, how many SEC parks have you done baseball in? And the answer is very few. I mean, it's the old school ones that were in the Big 12 or the Southwest Conference, like Arkansas, Texas A&M, obviously, Missouri comes to mind. I've been to Alex Box Stadium and Ole Miss for a Super Regional in 2005, and that's it. So I'm going to get my first experience at Dudy Noble on down the road in Starkville and Alabama and Auburn and down in Gainesville and even Kentucky and Lindsey Nelson Stadium in Knoxville and in South Carolina. So, I mean, am I in for a treat on those baseball venues?
You know the way I'm thinking here, Craig, because it's more than just the 9 innings for you. You're going to love because combination foodie, right? For you,
right? Of course.
Because I love following you because I like to see what you're eating. I live vicariously through you. I think you're going to love the towns. And Craig, don't you think it's sometimes a benefit for us in baseball? We get to park in a town for 3 days.
Yes.
And you get to experience all of Athens and all of Auburn. And to me, I love campuses and stadiums and stuff like that. And those downtowns are so much fun. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I really do. It was my first time to Dudy Noble this past year. Absolutely loved it. And the schedule, I think they're still working on that schedule. It will be a gauntlet, that's for sure. But I think you get that in any of the major college. There's a reason why Texas is always going to Omaha because of the teams that David Pierce puts together and the rich tradition and the history. There's a reason why Wake Forest is number 1 in the ACC, but it's that gauntlet in the SEC and having to do that. I don't know if it's going to be 30 or 36 games. I have no idea. It's going to be no more than 10 weekends, but I think you're going to absolutely love it because you love atmospheres. You love the way the towns are. You love the way fans are to see what that's like. And I just can't imagine what a weekend's going to be when Texas walks into Alex Box for a weekend here. I just think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Same thing with Mississippi State. I think you're going to love all these towns, and I know you're going to love the competition, and I know you're going to like how Texas is going to stack up against the rest of the SEC.
Fact or fiction? You loved everything about the trip to Palo Alto in terms of the climate, the dining options, the environment, everything except the working space in the press box.
Fact. But you know what? We know what's good about that, Craig? If I got a little tired, I could just turn my mic and I could hear Roxy Bernstein talking. So.
Or in my case, Mike Monaco.
Yeah. I don't understand how they host a regional and have just one big, what's it called, crowded house? Did you call it the crowded house?
I called it the crowded house, yeah. Yeah. And I was used to it because of the 20-year relationship that Augie Garrido had with Mark Marquis, and they had home and home, so I'd been there 6 or 7 times. Doesn't make it any easier to work in there, but at least I knew what was coming. And when I saw that photo of you, I felt for you a little bit because I thought, oh, if he knew what he was walking into on that deal.
Yeah, absolutely. But I enjoyed it immensely. The weather was outstanding, as it always is. Love the town of Palo Alto. I was able to text with a parent of Jacob Polish, who pitched at Stanford and then with us last year. I said, I see why Jacob, who grew up in Dallas, I see why he came to Stanford. And just talking about it, they loved it. Wonderful experience for that, for sure, to be out there. I had not been out there, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people saying, I wish Andrew would shut up. I have a tendency to get loud. So the crowded house, you flat out nailed it for sure.
I had several people either tweet or text me and said when Texas got the big hit on Saturday from Porter Brown, they could hear me in the background behind Mike Monaco and Kyle Peterson. That's how snug we all were. But that's okay.
That means you get to invoice ESPN then, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Send me some talent on that. Yeah. Hey, it's always great to visit with you. I look forward to visiting with you more often. This will be here before we know it, obviously. But I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to join me, and we'll look forward to catching up with each other again down the road.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
All right, thanks. That is the one and only Andrew Monaco. He's the play-by-play voice of the Aggies of Texas A&M. Yeah, it's just around the corner. All right, we're going to wrap up hour number 1 here. Like I said, I'm headed down to meet with the Texas High School Coach Association down in San Marcos. So I got that going on. But I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, Gene Watson, assistant general manager of Kansas City Royals, joins us. We're getting back on the regular train with him in talking Major League Baseball. So he will be with us tomorrow, so we'll do that. But we invite you to stay tuned because the level-headed Aggie himself, Chad Hastings, will join Cameron Parker as you guys kind of break down. I didn't even ask you, what are you most excited about the 2024 schedule?
It's got to be A&M.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be A&M.
Yeah. If you had to separate that from it, what would it be?
Being able to host Georgia, I think, would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. That'll be cool.
It'll be a good year for season ticket holders like myself. That's
there you
sure.
go. All right, we invite you to stay tuned. Hour number 2 coming up. Chad Hastings joins Cameron Parker here on Light the Tower. A Horn 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260, live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.
We roll on Light the Tower. Hour number 2 underway here on the Horn. Glad you can join us wherever you are joining us from. Craig Way, step out for hour number 2. Cameron Parker here. Jeff Howell starting his vacation, but the man who I don't think ever vacations, sitting across from me now, you hear him as the host of Chad and Say from 12 to 3. He is Chad Hastings once again joining us. Thank you, Chad.
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good. Now, did you watch the SEC schedule reveal like you watched like the NBA draft, the NFL draft? How did you take it in? Because it felt like one of those must-watch TV moments. Even though we kind of knew the bigger matchups, it felt like, hold up, all right, I got to pull up YouTube TV and see what's going on here.
Man, when it's something I wanted to come back that bad, I had to see it for sure. I had to know that it was legit. So you made a good comparison. I did kind of watch it like I watch drafts, because normally I watch the beginning of a draft and then I let the rest of it play out and go check out stuff online. I didn't watch an hour of it. I think I watched from 6 to about 6:32. Mm-hmm. And watched long enough. I saw what the Texas situation was. Got a blog post on the website because that was one of the things I was doing yesterday. Tweeted that out, and that way all of our guys could get their reactions and everything. Then I just kind of sat back and let them roll through each team. Once I'd kind of seen all the teams, then I kind of ducked out before they really went into serious breakthrough or breakdown mode. But yeah, I watched it for about 30 minutes and then just smiled. Just had a big old smile on my face. Made sure that the Lone Star Showdown T-shirt was clean today. I'm one of the few people that still owns one of these bad boys. I wear it all the time when it comes to this rivalry. And now it's all come back together, Cameron, for me. I hope there are Longhorn fans out there that feel the same way that I do. But, you know, as I grew up, I knew who my favorite team was when I was about, 5, 6, 7, whatever that was. Went to the first game at Kyle Field and realized, okay, this is my team. As I grew up about 10, 11, 12, I realized my favorite conference in college football was the SEC.
Oh, okay.
I was drawn to the Georgias and the Floridas, the helmets and the traditions and the locations and the mascots. And I was drawn to that more than I was anything else in terms of a conference. So at one point, I found out my favorite team was going to my favorite conference. But what I lost was my favorite game. My favorite college football game was every year, end of the year, all right, let's see how things stack up against Texas. Let's see how things look against that crew in burnt orange. And I learned from a very early age that was the game. That's it. That's the measuring stick. Hey, Chad, you see all those logs piled up over there? That's for Texas. Hey, you want to learn the words to the fight song? Okay, it's about Texas. Everything was that. And then I lose it for a little over a decade. I didn't know if it was coming back. So now my favorite game with my favorite team is going to be in my favorite conference. I couldn't ask for much more. And I've said I could understand either side of where it would have started. But I'm also a little bit, the Aggie part of me is also a little bit excited that the SEC decided to, give the Aggies a little something with that first game. They don't do that a lot. They've kind of dogged the Aggies out from time to time from 2012, done things that didn't make sense. I thought it made sense for them to, people have called it doing them a favor or whatever. I thought that made sense. Logic would tell you to do it in Austin just because of the numbers, but I understand what they're doing. And then the way I saw them lay the rest of the schedule out, it made sense to me. So what did you think from the Longhorn side of things when you saw how it laid out? First of all, with that game, how excited are you? You and I are a little bit different places in terms of timeline. For you, how excited were you that the game's coming back for sure?
Talking about Texas Vanderbilt?
Not Texas Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think the past few years since we knew the SEC was going to add Texas and Oklahoma, it was kind of like not like if we're going to play A&M again, it's when, right? Like we knew it was going to happen. We were just hoping it was going to be a part of the first schedule, the first release. While we don't know the date yet, I want to get your thoughts on, when that should be in the schedule. It's kind of like, I guess, I don't have any brothers or sisters, but I imagine it's like, when your close brother or sister, leaves the house for a while and is gone for a handful of years and then comes back. Like you still have your little brother or your twin brother, Oklahoma, whatever you want to refer to them as. But when you get A&M back, I think that's what it felt like, right? Because there's been a part of college football that's been missing. You can talk about the conference realignment, if it's good or bad for the game or whatever, because we're losing a lot of rivalries, right? And with the Pac-12 adding USC and UCLA, that's going to really shake up all those rivalries on the West Coast.
Yep.
And with this move, you lost Nebraska, Oklahoma, you lost Texas A&M, and now you're gaining it back, but you're also losing Oklahoma State. You're going to lose Texas Tech, mainly rivalries that, of course, I would trade in easily A&M to have a game with them versus having a game with Texas Tech for the rest of my life. Because
I'm with you there too. Yeah, I'm not going to miss playing Texas Tech.
Yeah, I don't think anyone
I have not.
with that.
I can give you that piece of advice from an Aggie to a Longhorn. I have not missed playing Texas Tech for 12 years.
Yeah, I don't think we will either. I don't think we're going to miss going to Lubbock either. College Station's a little bit closer for us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and there's just a little more. Again, there's more of a family environment to it. There's more of a family feel. And the fact that we finally get, we're getting Chapter 119 is awesome. My thanks to the SEC once again for doing it, because nobody on either side was really serious about doing it. They had to be forced. I'm so glad they were. Once they were forced, they all did the right thing. They said we want to play every year. They said we'd rather have 9 conference games. Hopefully we get to that point, but it's going to be so much fun knowing that game is coming back. And I heard you guys talking about it as I was driving in. I loved the love it got on the SEC network. I didn't expect it. I expected a lot of Texas OU talk, but I really didn't expect them to lean in that hard on that game. So I'm really hoping that the House Divided can become a different rivalry than it had been, because it's always been an up or down. Mm-hmm. One team's up, one team's down. They're not good at the same time. Those two programs are going to figure that out. I think that will make a lot of things better in the state of Texas if they can each be good at the same time. We'll see if that could happen. But I love the fact that SEC Network spent that much time talking about it.
Do they even reveal the schedule for Kentucky and Missouri? Do they know their schedule? Do they do that off the air?
I
thought they brought in Paul Feinbaum really quick to talk about Texas.
Dude, I saw Kentucky schedule flash up at 5:45. It was so unimportant they did it before the actual show.
Anybody else we got?
Who?
Kentucky. Okay.
Yes, Kentucky. Yeah, I was excited about it, and you've seen a lot of stuff out there on social media to go look at the schedules you're going to have. So obviously, if you want to hit us up on the Specs text line 337-3776, let us know what you thought. Whoever your team is, if you're a Texas fan, if you're an Aggie fan, if you're an OU fan, and then those 3 fan bases to me, Cameron, along with Arkansas, I was focused on yesterday for the region. Because they're in the same conference, going to be in the same conference the first time ever. So I tried to process that in my brain. Texas, OU, A&M, and Arkansas in the same conference, first time ever. It's been 3 out of 4 a couple ways, but it's never been all 4. So I wanted to ask myself, if I'm those fan bases, how do I feel? Starting with you guys, I'd feel pretty good. If I was a Texas fan, I'd feel pretty good at how I was treated. Both cocktail parties teams come to you. Obviously, you're going to avoid Bama because you're going to have just finished a home and home, and you get now the going to A&M and going to Arkansas thing. I wouldn't be totally thrilled about that if I'm a Texas fan. I would have liked to have had one of those at home, but when you make it Florida and Georgia, it's okay. And if I'm a Texas fan, I think, hey, we signed up for this, we asked for it, we asked for the SEC, and we're getting a big dose of it. But it doesn't feel completely oppressive, oh my God, this is not going to happen. And then you give Texas the 3 games that they kind of were looking for. Oklahoma was going to be there. You give them Arkansas and A&M. If I'm an Aggie fan, again, I'd be happy that you get to host Texas. I'd be happy I get to avoid Bama and Georgia. If I'm an Arkansas fan, I'm thrilled I get to host Texas. Thrilled. They hate Dude, they hate y'all in a special way. I was on this little conference call thing on Twitter that I don't fully understand because I'm an old man, and a Tennessee fan.
Spaces?
Spaces. I was in a space.
Yeah.
I had no idea. The guy's like, hey, I'll pull you up on the space. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You got to explain this to me. I was on a space, and this Tennessee fan jumps in and says, man, Arkansas got really fired up when Texas came to Fayetteville a couple years ago. It was like they cared about that more than they did playing Bama. And I said, yeah, because they do. They hate Texas maybe more than they hate anything else on this earth. So I'd be thrilled about that if I'm an Arkansas fan. And then I don't think their schedule is that. To get to host Tennessee and Texas, I think that's pretty cool. for Arkansas folks, and then they still have the A&M game, the non-conference, and then to get to go to Missouri and Mississippi State, not that crazy. They get to avoid Bama, which has got to be great for them, as long as Arkansas has been dealing with Bama every single year. They don't have to play Bama, and they don't have to play Georgia. And the only one of those four where I'd be a little pissed is if I'm an OU fan.
Yeah.
If I'm an OU fan, I might ask the SEC, did you read our full resume? Did you read everything we are and everything we've done? We get Alabama coming to us, okay. Oklahoma has to go to Auburn and to LSU. The only other team I could find, Cam, that they did that to was Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
That is low. That is a low blow right there. By the way, the only team I can find going to Bama and Georgia in 2024 is Auburn. Good luck, Tigers. That's a crazy year. So those four fan bases, that's kind of how I would size that up. Let us know what you think. Somebody said, how cool was it to hear SEC guru Paul Feinbaum say everyone wants to play Texas?
Yeah.
There it is. Half the conference gets Texas, half the conference gets OU. So they're guaranteeing that as well. I thought they did a pretty good job. They have a tough job, man. They already had 14 tough things to deal with. And they just added that brand and that brand. So there's a lot of things to consider. And I thought they did a pretty good job. And now we're getting games we didn't used to get. Hopefully the SEC scheduling garbage can go away. The non-conference stuff will be there on the back end. Because especially if you stay with 8 conference games. But even if you go to 9, they're going to still schedule. Teams are going to schedule Wofford and the Citadel and Chattanooga and stuff. But this whole Georgia and Alabama have only played 5 times in 20 years. That's got to stop immediately. And they need to get into home and homes with everybody. The fact that they got rid of division is great. Here's one for you, Cam. Did you see who LSU plays in non-conference in 24?
I did not.
They play USC and UCLA.
Oh.
They host the Bruins, if I saw it correctly, and they travel to the Coliseum. Now that is what I call a non-conference schedule. And the fact that the SEC has dictated everybody's got to play one Power 5 or a reputable independent. Like, that's awesome. The fact that they're making them go to that level for at least one game, I think that's fantastic.
And you guys opened with Notre Dame that year, right?
That is true. A&M
Or
hosting Notre Dame, I think.
Or maybe not open, but I know that that's one of your non-conference.
It's real
right?
close. Usually, yeah, it may be that second week, but yes, A&M does play Notre Dame, I believe, as the big non-con that year. Hopefully we continue to see just better and better versions. Bama's going to Wisconsin. By the way, I believe it's actually at Wisconsin, not one of those games where it's like, Alabama's stepping up their gutsy. They're going to play Louisville. Where are they playing?
Lucas Oil Stadium.
Atlanta. Oh, good God, Atlanta again. So as we saw last year, when Alabama is forced to play an actual road game at another actual environment, it can be close. It was close in Austin.
It could be actually a fun game.
It was fun. It was incredible. The Alabama fans enjoyed it, and that team survived. They got out of Austin with a win, and it's going to be so much fun to watch those kind of matchups and those kind of things. Somebody says, when do the Longhorn shirts come out with the SEC symbol on them? Oh, yeah, those are on the way.
I think I've seen some actually around some tailgates.
Those are on the way. I'm interested to see if they'll start embracing at least kind of the way maybe A&M and Missouri did. I saw SEC flags. It felt like in 2 seconds. As soon as it was announced that first year, and the pride that was there in the conference was there. Everybody outside of the SEC loves to make fun of it all, and I always say it the same way. It just means more is true for all of it. It's true for the good. It's true for the bad. It's true for crazy callers on Feinbaum. It's true for a guy that poisoned the trees at Auburn. But it's also true that when they release the schedule in June, they care way more than other conference fans care. That's what Texas and Oklahoma have decided they want to be a part of. A conference that cares about it more than everybody else does.
It was a discussion yesterday between Jeff and Craig and myself. When has there ever been this much speculation and hype and hoopla around a schedule reveal for a conference, right?
Yeah, I can't think of it. I'll tell you that since my team has been in the SEC, I'll check when they usually throw it out in April, sometimes April, May. When they'll throw stuff like that out, I'll start checking it and thinking forward. to like, oh, that'll be cool. This will be cool. Do I want to do a trip? I've done a couple SEC trips. That's what Texas fans are going to enjoy too.
Mhm.
The idea of, hey, where do I maybe want to go?
Yeah.
Because I didn't do that in the Big 12. I'm a stereotypical example. I never planned a trip to
Yeah.
Manhattan.
No one's fired to go to Manhattan or Waco.
And I didn't plan. Now, I've been to Waco. I did the Texas ones. I've been to Waco. Actually, I say that. I've never been to a game in Lubbock. It's never interested me. My dad's got a buddy out there, but I never went to one of those games. So I've been to Baylor. I went to TCU. I was there the night Quentin Coriat broke that dude's jaw. And then I've been to SMU when SMU played at Texas Stadium. I've been to games up there. But yeah, I didn't plan like big trips. Oh my God, we got to go to Lawrence. Oh man, let's go to Ames. It never occurred to me. But then when it switches to the SEC, you just start to think about it. And that's what I've heard for years from people in your group, Cameron, whether it's somebody your age, it's somebody older like me, it's somebody, all ages have told me, Texas fans, it's like, man, I want better trips. I want better trips. Y'all thought that USC thing was cool, home and home, because it was. You thought Notre Dame's cool, home and home, because it was. You wanted more of those. Michigan and the Ohio State thing is coming. But once you walk out of that Cotton Bowl, and I love Texas fans for this, for being honest about it. Once y'all walked out of that Cotton Bowl, for the rest of the year, you kind of had this about you. Because all your really cool rival stuff was gone.
Yeah.
The Aggies were gone at the end of the year. And the Aggies dealt with it a different way. They wouldn't absolutely outright tell you they missed it, but you could feel it. You could feel that it wasn't the same. They tried to do off-campus bonfire and convince you that it was about Missouri or LSU or something. It just didn't feel right. This is going to feel so right. 2024, and to answer your question before you ask it, I don't care when it's played, but I'm not locked into any Thanksgiving Day idea. I say give the NFL Thanksgiving Day. I'd even tell them to move the Egg Bowl. Yeah. I think the Egg Bowl gets lost. Let the NFL have Thanksgiving, pack Friday and Saturday. I want it the Friday or Saturday of Thanksgiving week. That's what I want. Black Friday or Saturday. That's when that game should be played.
They've tried Texas Tech. They've tried TCU. I think Baylor was it last year, 2 years ago. When you have a game on Thanksgiving and you have a student, he goes, hey, go home for a weekend or watch, 7-4 Texas for 7-4 Baylor. I'm going to go home. I kind of miss my parents cooking. A&M, Texas, they'd be 0-8 going in that game. They still want to go because it's what that game means. And like you said, after the Cotton Bowl, sure, like, oh, yeah, we had the TCU game coming up, but it's not the same as it was playing A&M. And now that's back. Like, I hope it's at the end of the season because it'll mean more. Versus, imagine if you play A&M the week after the Oklahoma game. It's like you won't be able to process, either the OU game or the A&M game because it's two of your biggest rivals back to back. You got to space it out right. You got to create some couple weeks on Twitter where you got people going at each other. Now, I've heard that A&M wants to keep that LSU game, and so I know you don't care. But is there something there now with the A&M LSU kind of rivalry, the 7 overtime game where it's like, yeah, there's actually a good spot in the schedule, but you seem like you don't really care when it's played.
It's been that one they can move around. That one they could move. When I was growing up, when it was a non-con game, A&M played LSU in the heat of September. I remember going to an LSU game, heat of September, like 96 degrees kind of a day. That game to me can go anywhere. The Texas game needs to be at the end of the year. Separate those things out to where Texas OU and this game are in separate spots because, they don't play the Iron Bowl and the cocktail party close together.
Yeah.
Now, those are different teams, I understand, but they space out their rival games. I think the SEC will get this one right, and hopefully they'll be able to figure that out. But so exciting that game is back, all the other games that have been talked about, and the fact that Texas and Oklahoma are getting a clear message from the SEC on a couple of games. We're going to send our 2 biggest dogs to you, and your fans get to see it right away. Oklahoma fans get to walk into their stadium and face Alabama. Texas fans get to walk into their stadium and face Georgia. And let me tell you, as a uniform freak, there is really something cool when certain helmets get together, when they never get together. And I remember when Texas and Georgia got together for that bowl game, and I got so excited just because of that. I remember the bowl game when I was a kid. We won't go into the details of it. But I remember thinking, God, that's so cool that those two are playing. And now it's going to happen in Austin. To me, it's a great welcome to the conference kind of thing. And for Texas, it's all right, here's what we asked for. Let's go. Let's start measuring ourselves right away. It might be against a 3-time defending national champ. So what? Let's go. We have asked for this. We want this schedule. No bitching, no complaining, no moaning, expanded playoffs. So you'll have other opportunities on the back end anyway. Bring the dogs to town. Bevo would like to see UGA again. Let's go.
How do you think the SEC is going to change the conference, the divisions, the pods? Because we're going to have the 16 team, just the top 2 advance to the SEC championship, right? That's going to be the format next year.
Yep.
How would you like to see it in 2025? Because there's a possibility here with so many top teams. You're going to have a lot of teams, a lot of losses, but with the playoff opening up to 8 teams now, you're going to have, possibly 3-4 lost teams maybe getting in now. So does it even matter at this point?
I think the thing the SEC needs to focus on is kind of what they've done in 24 in terms of keep as many rivalries as you can, but you need to get a good rotation going. Let everybody – this thing of you're going to play everybody in 3 years and you're going to play everybody everywhere in 4, bravo. That's perfect. You need to tell recruits that. You need to make sure they understand it. Nobody's running from anybody. Do those true home and homes where, again, if I'm the badass kid that's about to start as a freshman, I know that when I leave, I will have worn this uniform and I'll have worn it everywhere. I'll have gone to all those different places. I think that's a first place they need to start. I would go to 9 games. I like the 3-6 model because it preserves most of the rivalries. By the way, in 2024, one of my favorites, Auburn-LSU, is not happening. I love that. I love the Tiger Bowl. I'm a big fan of it. It's not happening. Georgia-South Carolina is not happening. But outside of that, I couldn't find another one. There's only a few that get, pushed aside. So they've got to preserve as many of those as they can. But I think that's what's critical to me moving forward is don't be afraid of the parity you've just created. Don't run from it. Let it build on itself. Let the iron sharpen the iron and let it play out. Because I think you're right. Right now, we're going from a world where if you lose 2 games, you can't even get in the playoff to wherever this is going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if a 4-loss team is getting in the playoff. I don't. I really don't know. As I recall from looking at what it would have been these last few years, I want to say like if you can still be a 2-loss team, maybe 3, but I don't know if you can lose 4. We're going to have to see that part play out. So if I'm the SEC, I would just lean into the competition you've created here would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, and it feels like the committee's probably going to give a little bit more leeway for the Big Ten teams and the SEC teams versus a 3-loss Big 12 team versus a 3-loss SEC team. Probably going to be weighted a lot differently by the committee. But
yeah.
Just speculation.
I agree. And then that non-conference you play is going to matter. Then it becomes – hopefully that part can become a little more like college basketball. Hey, they played in the non-con. They went to Duke and only lost by 3, something like that. I think that's going to matter too. All right, so we got a lot going on today. By the way, I am Chad Hastings filling in for Craig and Jeff. Jeff hitting a little bit of time off in the summer. Craig's got what's he doing? Texas Coaches High School happening?
Association, yeah.
My goodness. Got a Zoom call to get on or something?
I believe 5 new names being inducted. So
gotcha. Got to figure out what that's all about. All right, so Craig's dealing with that. Cameron Parker here as always. I'm Chad Hastings. And we doing a flex segment coming up, or do we already do that?
We can do it.
Real
quick.
Flex segment coming up. I got a flex connection with the 24 schedule.
Let's hear it.
Plus, I want to hear about the flex show last night.
Of course.
We will get to that. Plus, we can get you an update on the U.S. Open. They are underway at that club in L.A. People are trying to learn a little bit about. We'll tell you who's on top of the leaderboard next on The Horn. All right, hope you're having a great Thursday discussing all the SEC 24 schedule stuff coming out of last night. This does not sound like a song Cam would play for Craig, and it does not sound like a song Cam would play for Jeff Howe.
Nope.
You're just taking advantage of both of them being gone, aren't you?
Exactly right.
So how does this song speak to you? Why would this song pop up?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, I see. We were just talking superhero movies in the break.
Yeah.
So you want to go a little Guardians?
Yeah. So love all three soundtracks. Actually, because the first one, we were both at, coincidentally.
That's
we
right.
We didn't plan a movie date.
I know.
We were both in the theater.
You and I both saw Guardians 3 at the exact same time.
And I took my dad to it because he loved the first one, just to see if he would like it. And, you know, he didn't check his phone more than 3 times during the movie, so I think it's a kind of a thumbs middle.
So overall, you endorse all 3 of those movies?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
I do too. I thought they landed the plane pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird thing to try to end.
Yeah.
It's a strange world, obviously, but I thought it was good. And the music's incredible. That was the first thing I heard. First and only superhero movie where that's all people would tell me at the beginning. Man, have you seen Guardians? No. Guardians, what are you talking about? Guardians of the Galaxy. Dude, the music is unreal. I was like, did you just say the music is unreal? And it made me kind of not want to see it first. Then when I saw it, I realized.
You understood it.
Oh, I see what they're saying. Okay. Yeah, check out Guardians 3 if you haven't. It's very, very good. Cameron Parker, I'm Chad Hastings, as Craig is dealing with some high school football business today, and Jeff Howe is enjoying some well-earned vacation. If you're out there on vacation, we hope you are having a good one as well. No matter what you're doing on this Thursday, getting more reactions to the SEC 24 schedule. We also have the U.S. Open cranked up at the L.A. Country Club. That's actually what it's called, the Los Angeles Country Club. And right now, the leaders right up at the top, it's definitely got a North American feel to it. Omar Morales at -3 through 9 holes. And then a group of Americans that includes, let's see, one name I know, Cameron Parker, Kevin Streelman. I've heard that name at -2, along with Jacob Solomon, Ryan Gerard, and Dylan Wu. I'm guessing you might know who those guys are, golf freak.
Yeah, so Dylan Wu just actually made birdie on the par 5-8 to jump into that 3-way tie for 3 under.
Okay.
West Coast course, so 2 of the 3 guys in the top. One currently plays at UCLA, amateur Omar Morales. Dylan Wu, a standout at Stanford. So, so far, showing out to the West Coast guys who are up there. Ricky Fowler, -2. He's from California. Xander Schauffele, -2. He's also from California. So,
and isn't Homa a California guy?
He has the course record. He sat there when he won the, I believe the 2012 or 13 national championship. I think it was 13. He won the individual title when he was at California.
Fired at 61?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. I saw him interview today talking about that. He's at -1. DeChambeau -1. A couple other names I grabbed here. Schauffele at -2. Justin Thomas +2. Patrick Reed +3. For those of you that are Patrick Reed haters, you can smile on that one. +3 through 3 holes. So maybe they are done. Now we're done with all the asking questions about the agreement and what's going to look like moving forward. And now it's just about the golf. Later on this afternoon, I believe, is when that awesome grouping of Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka gets out there. Let's see how they play early, Cameron. I'm fascinated by both of them. I think Koepka is truly dangerous right now. The focus he must have, just being Brooks Koepka, but then also, coming off a win at the PGA. And then with Rory, let's see. Rory's run his mouth a lot, and Rory had the high ground. And now all of the sudden, it's all been taken away from him. I wonder if it affects the golf at all. That's got to be a confused man right now.
Yeah, and he had a chance to win last week at the Canadian Open. He was in the final group, just didn't have it on that final Sunday. For him, this course, I don't know if it's a great Rory McIlroy course that'll set up for him, but it's going to be an excellent group. And the best part of it, Chad, the West Coast, we get primetime golf.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Because our time,
that is good.
Jordan Spieth tees off at like 4 p.m. Central Time. So he won't finish up until 8, 9 p.m. So, you get home from work because usually when they play on the East Coast, they're already done for the most part before dinner. You can sit back and relax before you go to bed and watch some West Coast golf. So that's what I'm most excited for because it comes on NBC at 7 p.m. tonight.
That's exciting. I hadn't even thought of that. That's a good point. It's like the opposite. It's an opposite good news from like the British Open, which is you can get done with the rounds early in the day.
Yeah.
This one is, you get a little prime time that you wouldn't have. We'll keep you updated on that as the other big dogs get out there on the course throughout the day. Let's get him a little flex segment here, Cameron. I saw something great this morning that ties together flex and this SEC 24 scheduling. This will tie it all together for you. I saw a tweet today from Princely Umanmielen, the stud that went to Manor and is now at Florida. And he tweets out, "We play Texas in 2024. I might just," and then he puts out melting smiley face emojis. I don't know if that means he's happy and it's going to be hot, but melting face. I guess that's just happiness. The melting smiling face. And he put 4 of them in there. So, Cameron, that's another angle of this to consider. That, in recruiting discussion, when A&M joined the SEC, it brought a different feel to recruiting in the state of Texas. Now that's going to change even more with Texas and Oklahoma. You're going to have so many different kids trying to make that choice of, do I want to play SEC football with the Aggies, Longhorns, Sooners, or do I want to go to a place like Florida, Georgia, Bama, knowing that in the rotation of things, I will come to Austin if I'm an Austin area kid and my family gets to see me play no matter what I'm wearing.
Yeah, I think a big part of the SEC recruiting pitch is like, come play in the best conference, right? And they've recruited very well, poaching out of the state of Texas, right? But now if you're Oklahoma and Texas with the schedule, you can be like, hey, we got Bama coming to our place this year. We're going there next year. Or if you're Texas, so we got Georgia coming here this year. Then we're going to their place next year. And then Alabama eventually down the road once again. It's a good pitch, right, for kids in the state of Texas. So I'm curious to see if maybe OU Texas get a little boost from recruiting or if it doesn't have an effect at all.
And that's where there's 2 guys I just thought of as you were saying that. Because when they get in those living rooms and it's the SEC guys talking, and now it includes Sarkisian walking in there and Venables in Oklahoma and all that, how do Dabo and Ryan Day deal with that issue?
Yeah.
Because the SEC stuff just changed on them. So how do they now come into Texas and make their argument? Apparently Dabo is killing it recruiting right now.
Yeah, he's bouncing back for sure.
He just got the stud 25 running back, and there's all kinds of energy around him. But what are those discussions that they are saying to recruits? That's interesting. So that is a part of the Flex Thought today. Remember, you can go to FLX ATX on social media. I also saw a congrats to our man Jake Helms, the long snapper out of Westlake, got an offer from Air Force.
Yeah.
So congrats to him for that. Speaking of Westlake, Cameron, you guys had a visit from Westlake folks on the Wednesday Night Flex show. Was it the entire baseball team that was in the studio? This place was pretty packed last night.
Not quite, but yeah, it was basically just a Westlake Flex show. We had Coach JT Blair on, and Coach Blair, he's been on, I think, the Horn shows like 50 times this season. I was about to say, like, if you retire from baseball, like, you probably have a future in hosting a radio show. You've been on the airwaves so long, so many times. He was on last night, and then in studio we had Aiden Bennett and Ben Longoria. So Bennett gonna go to A&M.
Is that right?
And try and walk on for baseball. And I believe Ben Longoria, Navarro, he'll be at Navarro JUCO College. He had that throw to the plate that ended Game 2 against San Antonio Dotson that sent Westlake to the state tournament. So it was a great show. Zach Lucero, Nolan Hogan, Corey Mose from KVU. He's been a stalwart in our Flex show and myself. So if you missed it last night, check it out on the Horn FM podcast page or the Flex ATX podcast page. Just search Flex ATX anywhere you get your podcast.
All right, got a little more this hour, and then we'll get you off to Chad and Zay from 12 to 3. Isaiah Collier does a heck of a job. That other guy? I don't know. I'm not sure. You'll have to deal with his Aggie crap today.
Is it going to be like USC basketball next year where you have Isaiah Collier and then you have Bronny James, even though you know Collier's the better player, but Bronny's going to get more of the hype? Is that what's going to be like? Is that a fair comparison? Am I reaching?
I like any weird comparison where I get to be Bronny James.
Okay,
that was actually crazy. It is going to be weird for the next few years trying to make sure everybody understands the difference between our Isaiah Collier and the other Isaiah Collier. The spellings are different, and the worlds are different a little bit.
At least he's not working in California right now. But I mean, he may. Who knows?
He
But
might, yeah.
That'd be a little bit tough.
That's true. You never know. So Zay will be jumping in next hour. We'll get into a lot of discussion and keep getting your reaction to the schedule stuff. A little bit more here in Light the Tower. We are glad you're here with us today. Give us your reaction to the SEC scheduling in 2024. Still a lot of questions out there as to how it's going to lay out. Specs text line is 337-3776. More coming up on the Horn.
Football season is going to be here before you know it, before it gets here. Take time while you've got time to get in touch with Tom McKay and audio-visual consultations to make sure your home entertainment setup is exactly the way you want it for football season. Call them right now, 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. I made that call a couple years ago. I'll be watching football this fall in style on a 75-inch LG TV, complete with a Sonos sound system. AV Consultations keeps the latest smart TVs and Sonos audio in stock. We're not raising prices like everybody else. If Tom McKay doesn't have it in stock, trust me, he's connected with enough people across his industry. It's not going to take him very long at all to get exactly what you need. You can let AV Consultations take all the worry out of it for you. You don't have to worry about the mounting hardware, any of that stuff. They've got it all. So whether you want that same setup like I've got, they put together projects that not only make sense for your budget, they make sense for the amount of space you have in your house. So maybe you need something a little bit smaller. You need a gaming setup. You want to get a full tilt home theater experience with a 150-inch screen, whatever it is. Just let AV Consultations take care of it. Call them right now, 512-255-8678. It's 255-8678. Let Tom McKay and Audio Visual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment setup of dreams.
I know I'm supposed to know this, but I'm not coming up with this one. What's the title of the song?
Since You've Been Gone.
Since You've Been Gone.
Now, I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
It's one of the rock supergroups.
A rock supergroup. Yeah, I don't know. I have no guess here. What do you got?
Rainbow.
Rainbow. All right. I end up missing the Rainbow stuff. I can identify the Ronnie James Dio stuff. I can identify some Dio, whatever, but the Rainbow, back all the way back to the Richie Blackmore and Rainbow. That's the one I miss. All right, there we go. That's a good way back machine there. Shout out to a little Rainbow. We got more crazy music coming up with Chad and Zay. Isaiah listened to Revolver by the Beatles this week. So we're doing an album movie swap. And the movie I watched this week was Coach Carter with Samuel L. Jackson. I'd never seen it. So we'll give you our thoughts on that coming up at 2 o'clock today. Before we get out of here.
Wait, what was the one that he gave you? Or you gave him, actually?
So in the last few weeks, we went to one movie and one album. So the album is Revolver for him that he hasn't listened to, and I hadn't seen Coach Carter.
Okay.
So we've been kind of mixing it up, doing a movie and an album these last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Kind of fun, kind of shaking it up. So we're on a weird run of good, bad movies. Like really good, you almost hate yourself for loving them kind of bad movies. Coach Carter's not quite that. It's better than that. But we've been on a run of Last Boy Scout, Above the Rim, and that type of movie. He started with Blue Chips. It's Zay's fault. He started with that good, bad movie, and then we just kind of went on a run.
Haven't seen Blue Chips. Haven't seen Coach Carter.
Have you seen Above the Rim?
I've not seen Above the Rim.
Oh, good God. Just go watch the beginning of Above the Rim.
Oh, boy.
It's one of the most world-class, awful beginnings to a movie I've ever seen. In terms of, like,
I can't wait.
An idea that's completely unrealistic for Earth. I don't think I've ever seen one dumber than that. And it colors the rest of the movie. It affects the way I think of the rest of the movie, which actually wasn't bad, but the beginning is bizarre. Anyway, so we'll get into that at 2 o'clock. Cameron, I did look up what the college football playoff would have been last year. I know this is a concern for people, and everybody flips out about, they're going to let a 5-loss team. Calm down. Let's breathe and go through it. Last year, week 15, we'll go before the bowls, because I think that's the most fair way to do it.
Yeah.
Here's what it would have been. Only 2 3-loss teams would have been in. Everybody else would have 2, 1, or no losses.
Okay.
The 2 3-loss teams would have been Utah and K-State. I think we can all agree they should at least be in a discussion of top 12. If that's probably all right with everybody. Here's what it would have been. Washington would have gone to Alabama for the 12-5. Tennessee hosts Penn State. Oh, my God, I love it already. Clemson hosts USC, and Utah hosts Kansas State. That would have been fun. And then, of course, you got Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State waiting. So last year's version would have been a couple of 3-loss teams in. So, Cam, the point you brought up earlier is interesting. Will we see now in the new Big Ten and new SEC world, would you see a 4-loss team in those badass conferences that might get a little love or get a little attention? The closest a 4-loss team would have been last year was LSU at 17. So 5 full slots back. The 4-loss situation. But this is where I use my NFL fandom and I sleep like a baby. I don't worry about it. For those college football elitists that say, well, if this team had lost a game, they wouldn't be one of the best ever. Yeah, and exactly. I don't need history. I just need a champion. I need it to be real. I need it to be based on real scheduling, real games, and real results. Once we get to the end of it, if it's historic, fine. But if it's not, well, so what? They're the champ that year, and we just move on. Like, none of that stuff scares me because I'm an NFL fan. I know that if you lose 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 or 6 games, you get on a run and you beat people, you beat them. That's it.
That's how it is in college baseball right now. I mean,
sure.
TCU at one point was like, oh, I'm not going to they're not going to even sniff the postseason. And now they're the hottest team possibly in college baseball right now. We saw in the NBA playoffs with the Miami Heat. They were in the play-in. They won 1 game in the NBA Finals. Sure, they got their butts whipped, but they lost to the best team in the NBA and also went to championship, so you can't discredit it. It's always going to be a part of conversation, I think, in sports because for some reason there's this weird group of people who always get so offended by that, Chad. But, I mean, like you mentioned LSU, If we lost, one of those was in the SEC championship. So, I mean, really, they were a 3-loss team, technically, and that third loss came against A&M the week before in the championship. But before that, they had beaten, they went through 5 top 25 teams and won 5 straight. And they lost to Georgia at Georgia by only, I think, 2 scores. So they were worthy of it. Now, of course, they had the 4-loss team. So I'm curious, the only way I think a 4-loss team would go in, to back up my point, would be if they lost in the conference championship. Now, you have an 8-4 team that went in before playing an extra game, then that doesn't work. But if it is an LSU type or maybe, a USC type in the Big Ten where that 4th loss came in the conference championship, but they did beat a couple top 5, top 25 teams, I'm curious how the committee will look at them if they're from this new mega conference SEC, mega conference Big Ten.
Oh, and the best news is all those dumb discussions they've been having, crazy discussions they've been having over the years, we finally got it to move from 2-3 to 4-5. Now that discussion moves down to 12-13. Fantastic. Fantastic. I can't wait for this thing to get cranked up. More meaningful football. And guess what? If your favorite team does win a national title, it's going to matter even more. Before we get out of here, Cameron, if I can pay for every bit of it, as a Texas fan, I'll pay for every bit of it. You don't have to worry about, we'll make it like a Price is Right prize. Give me the SEC venue you want to go experience the most.
Oh, okay. So I've been
all expenses are taken care of.
All expenses. I've been to Tuscaloosa twice, so this A&M count because I'm in the Kyle Field yet.
Of course.
Okay. I think for me, well, I mean, I guess probably Athens because I've heard it's a great place to go to.
Mhm.
But for the actual game, A&M,
Okay.
for the actual experience, probably Athens, Georgia.
Okay. So if I give you the Aggies for free, you'd go to Athens.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to figure out where to be in Kyle Field next year.
That is going to be a lot of fun. We'll continue to talk about that, also some of the other ones. And a question for you out there, Texas fan or otherwise, in 2024 and beyond, what is that SEC venue you want to go see above all else? We'll get into that, talk about the schedule reaction. We got a little NFL to get into. And yes, at 2 o'clock today, we'll get into that album movie swap. Chad and Zay coming up. Cameron Parker, thank you for having me, sir.
Thanks for coming on, Chad. Appreciate it.
Craig Way, be safe out there. Jeff Howe, enjoy that time off. And we will keep rolling right here on a Thursday. Keep it right here on The Horn.